Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Ghosts and Spirits Encounters video. While I'm waiting for your aliens and UFO suggestions, I thought I would mix this one in here. Once again, delving with the spooky and creepy world of shadow people. There's always a whole lot of encounters to talk about here. It's like every time I go back to that reddit.com website, they're from the subreddit Shadow People. There's a plethora of them here. Always some new ones. I wish I could just do these every single day if needed. But otherwise, this comes from a user by the name of Lonely Cattle 1039. Once again, it's a pretty creepy encounter. It has to do with the title called The Shadow I Saw Had Yellow Eyes. Already it's unsettling right from the get-go. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that one here, and then I'll give my own thoughts and opinions on it too. So here's what they state. I'm fairly new to this sort of internet posting since I mainly observe from afar and usually write down my thoughts on paper or think to myself. But after reading some people's experiences and watching videos of shadow people, I kept thinking to myself of a specific memory from when I was around 4 or 5 and thought of sharing it since I still doubt it really did happen. Note, I have a younger sister who's 2 years younger than me. I'll bring her up now because I wasn't the only one who saw it. So it all started on either a spring or summer season since I remember the night being cool with a bit of wind ruffling. Me and my family came back home from either a family gathering or celebration of some kind that took place. After the party, I'd say around 11:40ish, we just arrived home with my mom parking the family van into the garage. Note 2, the garage we have is in the backyard, behind the fence, since we live in an area where it was closer to the city. After locking the garage door, we made our way towards the back door, carrying a couple of party food and extra items my mom had for gardening. As I walked ahead, getting closer to the back door, I heard my mom saying something but couldn't hear what she said. I turned around for 2 seconds to look at my mom, then turned back towards the door to only see the distortion of a figure right in front of me. Now, even though it was already dark out at the time, this figure was pitch black, making the other darker surroundings seem lighter. I remember standing still for a few seconds before I noticed that the placement of the eyes, or lack of, had bright yellow beads which stared right at me and the person behind me. I turned around and there was my sister, who was also standing still, color drained from her face as well. Luckily, my mom and dad were right behind us, quietly yelling our names, which snapped us out of the fear that stood us in place. And so I looked at my sister and she looked at me. It was then almost in sync. We both looked at our parents and said, "There's a man standing here," or something along those lines. It was then I specifically remember my mom being both confused and a bit unnerved, then told us that there was no one there. And so we both turned back and look and behold, nothing. It was as if there was nothing there in the first place. At that point, I was terrified and tried to explain what I saw along with my sister, but my mom insisted that I must have imagined something else because from her point of view, she only saw us standing still, looking at nothing. Nowadays, when I remember that specific memory, I've become more curious about the shadow, having many questions which are left unanswered. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. So again, that's the experience from the user by the name of Lonely Cattle 1039. So interesting stuff. In this case, this was a shadow person experience happening outside. We've talked about that in some of the past videos. It's a lot rarer, though. It seems like there's more shadow people experiences inside homes or apartments. Not really anything outside. The one I remember from before was that creepy encounter of that shadow person who was almost like, I think if I recall correctly, carrying some kind of briefcase, and then it almost kicked or touched the person that it ran into, and that person, and this was outside again, also by the same garage area, and the user mentioned that it was very, very ice cold. So here you have a situation where these two kids at that time were coming back from some party. Their mother and dad were there unloading things from the car, and then they were heading towards the area, I guess, where you walk in from the back area of the home where the garage was, and then they spotted this figure. Once again, it was described as being pitch black. Even though it was dark outside, it definitely had its own darkness within it as well. But then they mentioned something else that stood out. I don't recall this within some of my other videos. eyes that were bright yellow. There are plenty of examples of involving bright red eyes, but not bright yellow eyes. And then also, interestingly, in the comments associated with this story, because sometimes I try to peek in the comments and see if there's any continuation of it from the user. Someone else mentioned that theirs had blue eyes. Like, in other words, they've seen shadow people and theirs are blue eyes. So why are there a different set of eyes? Does it mean anything? Someone let me know if you have your own experience with shadow people and you remember something involving the eyes. Let me know. Is it something that was blue, red, yellow? Or no, like just white, like no other color at all. Post them below too. But that was it. Just a short and sweet, but otherwise still creepy encounter. You don't expect something like that outside of your home, just staring right at you. And then in a blink of an eye, it's gone when they did that little twist back to show their mom, and then when twisted their head back and all of a sudden it was gone. So who knows where it went afterward. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.